Before this story begins, I want you to look behind you. Is there anyone standing there? What if one night while walking home you noticed a shadow following you? Not a person. Not an animal. Just a shadow. And every night it came a little closer. Until one night it followed you inside your home. This is the terrifying story of the shadow that followed me home. Lucas Bennett had always enjoyed walking home at night. The streets were quiet. The city finally felt peaceful. Every night after work he took the same route through an old neighborhood where the streetlights barely worked. One cold October evening everything changed. As Lucas walked beneath the first streetlight he noticed something strange. His shadow looked normal. But when he stepped beneath the next light, there were two shadows. Lucas stopped walking. One shadow copied every movement he made. The other remained perfectly still. His heart skipped a beat. He looked behind him. The street was empty. No one stood nearby. No parked cars. No trees. Nothing that could create another shadow. He laughed nervously. It had to be a trick of the light. He continued walking. The second shadow moved. Not with him. Toward him. Lucas froze. It slowly stretched across the sidewalk, closing the distance between them. Then the streetlight above him flickered. When the light returned, the second shadow was gone. Lucas hurried home. He tried to forget what he had seen. The next night he took the same route again. Everything seemed normal. Until he reached the same streetlight. Two shadows. Again. This time the second shadow was closer. Much closer. Lucas quickly pulled out his phone and took a picture. The flash lit up the empty street. When he looked at the photo, only one shadow appeared. He looked back at the ground. Two shadows. He began running. The second shadow ran too, always staying one step behind. Lucas finally reached his apartment building. He slammed the front door shut. His breathing was heavy. He looked down. Only one shadow remained. Relieved, he walked upstairs to his apartment. As he unlocked the door, he heard something behind him. A soft whisper. Lucas. He turned around. The hallway was empty. He rushed inside and locked every door and window. That night he could not sleep. At exactly 3 in the morning, he woke to the sound of footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Walking across his living room. Lucas grabbed a flashlight and opened the bedroom door. The apartment was empty. But the moonlight shining through the window revealed something terrifying. A dark shadow was standing against the wall. There was no person casting it. Only the shadow. Then it slowly turned its head. And smiled. Lucas stood frozen in the bedroom doorway. The shadow remained perfectly still against the wall. There was no one standing in front of it. Nothing that could possibly create it. His flashlight trembled in his hand. He pointed the beam directly at the shadow. The moment the light touched it, the shadow disappeared. Lucas let out a slow breath. Maybe it had only been his imagination. He searched every room in the apartment. The living room was empty. The kitchen was silent. The bathroom door stood open. Nothing was out of place. Feeling slightly calmer, he returned to bed. But sleep never came. At exactly 6 in the morning his alarm rang. Everything looked normal again. Lucas convinced himself the last 2 nights had been caused by stress. After work he decided to avoid the old neighborhood completely. He took a different route home. The streets were crowded. Bright lights filled every corner. He smiled to himself. Nothing strange happened. Until he reached his apartment building. He looked down. 2 shadows. even under the bright streetlights. The second shadow had found him again. This time it stood so close that it almost touched his own. Lucas ran inside. He stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, he glanced at the mirrored wall. His reflection was alone, but on the floor beneath him. The second shadow stood silently. The elevator began moving, then suddenly stopped. The lights went out. Complete darkness surrounded him. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then he heard breathing. Not his own. Something was standing beside him. The emergency lights flickered on. Lucas looked to his right. No one. But the second shadow had changed. It now had glowing white eyes. Watching him. The elevator doors suddenly opened. Lucas sprinted out without looking back. When he reached his apartment, he found something waiting outside his door. A small envelope. No address. No stamp. Only his name written in black ink. He slowly opened it. Inside was an old photograph. It showed Lucas standing outside his apartment building. The picture had clearly been taken only moments earlier. But he had never seen anyone holding a camera. Then he noticed something horrifying. Behind him. The shadow was no longer flat on the ground. It was standing upright. Like a person. Its hand resting on his shoulder. On the back of the photograph, someone had written 5 chilling words. It is almost inside now. Lucas looked up from the photograph. His apartment door, which he clearly remembered locking, was already open. Lucas stood completely still. The apartment door slowly creaked open. A cold wind drifted out from inside. He was certain he had locked it before leaving. With trembling hands, he pushed the door wider. The lights were off. Only the faint glow from the hallway reached inside. Everything looked normal. Until he noticed wet footprints on the wooden floor. They began at the front door and disappeared into the bedroom. Lucas picked up a baseball bat from beside the couch. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. He followed the footprints. Step by step. The bedroom was empty. The footprints ended directly in front of the old mirror hanging on the wall. Lucas stared at the glass. His reflection stared back. Then it smiled. Lucas had not smiled. He stumbled backward. His reflection remained standing. It slowly lifted one hand and wrote something across the inside of the mirror. Run. The lights suddenly went out. The bedroom fell into complete darkness. Lucas heard breathing. Very close. Almost against his neck. He swung the baseball bat wildly. It struck nothing. Then the lights returned. The room was empty again. The word on the mirror had vanished. Lucas grabbed his keys. He could not stay there any longer. He drove to his childhood home across the city. His mother opened the door. She immediately noticed the fear in his eyes. Before Lucas could explain anything, she looked behind him. Her face turned white. She whispered, "It followed you." Lucas slowly turned around. The front yard was empty. His mother grabbed his arm and pulled him inside. She locked every door, closed every curtain, then opened an old wooden box she had hidden inside a closet. From it she removed a faded photograph. Lucas looked at it in disbelief. The picture had been taken on his 10th birthday. Find the place where it was born. Only there can it be stopped. Suddenly the bedroom door slammed shut. The flashlight went out. Complete darkness filled the room. Then 2 glowing white eyes slowly opened only inches away from Lucas. A cold voice whispered, "You finally found me." Lucas stumbled backward. The glowing white eyes remained fixed on him. The darkness around them slowly began taking shape. A tall figure stepped forward. Its body was completely black. Its face had no features. Only two bright white eyes. The creature tilted its head. Then spoke in Lucas's own voice. "I have been waiting for you." Lucas gripped his father's journal. His hands were shaking. "What are you?" The shadow took another step. "I am every shadow that was left behind. I exist wherever light exists. I have followed your family for generations." Lucas remembered every missing person mentioned in the journal. Every victim. Every second shadow. His father had been telling the truth. The creature raised one long black hand. The walls around the room suddenly disappeared. Lucas found himself standing in an endless world of darkness. Only a single beam of light shone from above. Inside the light stood his father. Exactly as Lucas remembered him. He looked older. Tired. But alive. "Dad." Lucas ran toward him. His father held up one hand. "Don't come any closer." Lucas stopped. "What happened to you?" His father looked sadly at the shadow. "I tried to destroy it. But I only trapped myself. The shadow cannot be killed. It can only be given a new host." Lucas felt his heart sink. "You mean?" His father nodded slowly. "It wants you." The shadow smiled. "Every generation gives me another life. Tonight your father's time ends. And yours begins." The ground beneath Lucas cracked open. Dark hands reached upward, trying to grab his legs. His father shouted. "Lucas." The journal. The last page. Lucas quickly opened the journal. Hidden behind the final page was a small folded letter. Inside were only a few words. "The shadow fears only complete darkness." Lucas looked around. That made no sense. The creature was darkness itself. Then he understood. A shadow cannot exist without light. If there was no light, there could be no shadow. Lucas reached into his pocket. He pulled out his phone. Then his flashlight. He smashed both against the floor. Darkness swallowed everything. The beam of light disappeared. The glowing eyes vanished. A deafening scream echoed through the endless void. The shadow roared in pain. For the first time. It sounded afraid. Then everything went silent. When Lucas opened his eyes, he was back inside his childhood bedroom. Morning sunlight poured through the window. The room was empty. The journal lay beside him. But one final message had appeared on the last page. "It is not dead. It is looking for another shadow." Lucas slowly stood up. Morning sunlight filled the room. For the first time in days, only one shadow rested at his feet. He smiled with relief. Maybe it was finally over. His mother rushed into the room. She hugged him tightly. Tears filled her eyes. "I thought I had lost you." Lucas looked at the old journal one last time. The final message was still there. "It is not dead. It is looking for another shadow." He closed the journal. Together they left the house. Life slowly returned to normal. Weeks passed. The nightmares stopped. The strange whispers disappeared. Lucas believed the nightmare had finally ended. Then one rainy evening, he received a phone call. It was from the police. An officer asked him to come to the old neighborhood. Immediately. When Lucas arrived, yellow police tape surrounded the same street where he had first seen the second shadow. A young man had disappeared. Without a trace. The officer showed Lucas a security camera recording. The video began normally. The young man walked alone beneath the streetlights. Then suddenly, A second shadow appeared beside him. Exactly like Lucas had seen. The shadow slowly moved closer. Then it stood up. The camera filled with static. When the picture returned, the young man was gone. Only his shadow remained. The officer looked confused. "We can't explain it." Lucas felt the blood drain from his face. The nightmare had begun again. Someone else had been chosen. That night Lucas returned to the empty street. Rain poured from the sky. He stood beneath the same broken streetlight where everything had started. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. Then the light flickered. Lucas looked down. One shadow. Then two. The second shadow slowly stretched toward him. But this time, it did not stop. It passed straight through his feet and continued moving down the street, as if searching for someone else. Lucas watched it disappear into the darkness. Relieved, he turned to leave. Then his phone vibrated. An unknown message appeared. There was no sender. Only a single photograph. Lucas opened it. His heart stopped. The picture had been taken only seconds earlier. It showed Lucas standing beneath the streetlight, looking at his phone. But behind him, the second shadow had stopped. It was no longer walking away. It was standing directly behind him. Its glowing white eyes stared into the camera. Below the photograph were 6 chilling words. "You never escaped, I just waited." Lucas slowly turned around. The street behind him was empty. No people. No shadows. Only silence. Then every street light went out. One by one. The darkness swallowed the road. And somewhere within that darkness, a familiar whisper echoed. "Lucas, I'm finally home." The end.